Right? Trump regularly has these town hall events, and he was recently in Michigan. This was on the 27th, and he was taking questions. He was just taking questions from people. He was sitting there and listening, and he has a message for America. And so we want to go ahead and review that. Make sure I hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. And I want you to compare and contrast and see what the difference is between Trump and Kamala Harris.
Wonderful replay.
Absolutely. All right. Misty.
Good evening, President Trump.
I wasn't sure. She reminded me when I was in the debate with crooked Hillary Clinton. She got up and she started walking around, and I said, "What's going on up here?" Go ahead. I didn't know you were going for such a beautiful young lady. Go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, President Trump.
Good evening.
My name's Misty. I proudly build the Ford Broncos and Rangers. Yeah! I've been with Ford for 25 years. If I'm going to be honest with you, I'm sorry. I was not for you in the beginning. But my son told me I sounded ignorant and I needed to educate myself on you.
That's true.
True.
That's what we're like. Where is he? Where is he?
Listen, let me say the same thing to Trump. At first, I wasn't sure if he was really for the American people back in 2015, 2014. But then I did my research, and I had a conversation with my mother also. Some of you guys were tuned into that conversation. It didn't go as well. Black mothers are a little bit different than white mothers. They love their sons. Black mothers love their sons too. But white mothers, they'll listen to their sons. Black mothers be like, hey, listen. I love you, but I don't know what happened to your son. When did you decide to leave the Democratic plantation? White moms, they be like, listen. Let me do my little bit of research. I need to understand. Her son educated her. Ma, you listening?
Is he here?
No,
Well, you say, I love your son. I think it's great.
He said just get his autograph. Anyway,
Yeah,
so I took the challenge on, and I'm proud to say that I'm voting for you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
My question for you is, I'm a single mom of 5, and becoming difficult to afford.
Wait a minute, ma'am. Before we start to put this on a plate of Trump, because again, this is my first time seeing this. I'm discovering this video in the same way that you guys are. First, let me say this. Where's the responsibility on you for being a single mother of 5? I'm just asking. Look. Snow bunnies get the same energy as everybody else. Some of these people have self-inflicted wounds. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Some of these people, before we start to hold politicians accountable for our actions, because you can't go out there and have 5 kids and then say it's becoming unaffordable. Fam, you got 5 kids. I have 1 daughter. I called her yesterday. I said, hey, how's everything going? Oh, Dad, I want to do this. Ooh, that's expensive. It's expensive. Everything is expensive with these kids, especially today. It's getting more expensive than ever before. They be having soccer practice and taekwondo and some new dance, and they got to get dripped out for their first day of school and all of that. For some of these people, some of this stuff is self-inflicted wounds. I'm gonna just say that. Let's continue.
The basics. So can you please tell me what you're going to do to lower the prices for us?
Yeah, so what we have to do, because the prices are so high, thank you, darling, very much. It's a great question. People are hurt by the cost of groceries, the cost of everything. There's nothing less expensive. If you go back 4 or 5 years, everything was just a fraction of what it is now. And they're making essentially, if they make the same wages, they're getting wiped out because prices are up 50, 60, 70% for a lot of things. For some items, it's much more than that. Well, look at interest rates. They were 2%. Now they're 10%. But at 10%, you can't get the money. At 2%, there was plenty of money for everybody for buying a house, et cetera, et cetera. But when you look at groceries, I think it's just.
And that's before we get into it, right? Because I want to hear his full answer, and I'm gonna let him rock. Before we get into it, that's something that I want to hear, right? Because people are not looking at not being able to buy a house or not being able to afford a house because they need $25,000 in payment assistance so they can then get their house foreclosed on because they can't afford the house that they were trying to buy in the first place. People are trying to understand how they can afford the house, not how you can give them a hand up or a handout that is then paid for by the taxpayers, which then increases our national debt, but it doesn't actually solve for the problems. It's an affordability problem, not an access problem. We don't need 3 million new homes. There's 1.8 million homes that's for sale right now that people don't want to buy. You know why? Because interest rates are too high. Even though the Fed just made a 50 basis point cut, interest rates is too high. Property taxes are high. HOA fees are high. People need affordability. And it's not just saying, hey, we're going to make more money. Because even that woman that's asking that question right now, first of all, she just got a raise from the UAW. If she makes the Ford Bronco and the Ford Ranger, that means that she's making more money than she ever made before. But she can't afford it. And so money is expensive to borrow, even when it comes to groceries. And then they pass that cost over to the consumers because grocery stores often at times, even the national chains, they carry a lot of debt. And they got to service that debt. They got to pass that cost back over to the consumers, right? If you are a part of Stock Club, if you're a part of the Patreon, if you're a part of the Bag Chasers, I've broken down. I went through and I showed y'all Kroger because they trying to go through a merger. I went through and I broke down Walmart and I showed you what their debt is. I showed you what their gross sales is versus what their net profit is. It's very, 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 very small. Very small. The margins are so thin. One problem, one way or another, is going to absolutely wipe you out, right? So we have an affordability problem. We don't have a housing shortage. We don't have a lack of the availability of resources. We have an affordability problem. Interest rates. That's the first thing that you got to talk about. The cost of being able to do business in the first place, which then is passed over to the consumers. That's another point that we need to start going into. So let me let them speak, and then I'm going to come back and tell y'all what I think.
That really, I always say this is an election that I used to say determined by the stomach. Actually, I don't believe that anymore. I think it's now determined by the brain because nobody wants to have criminals pouring into our country. Nobody wants to have any of these horrible things that are happening to our country. But we're going to be bringing them down, and it's going to start with energy. We're going to drill, baby, drill. Energy's coming way down. Energy.
First, we need to get these port strikes off the table. And unfortunately, Trump can't even participate in that because he's not in office.
Energy's coming way down, and when energy comes down, everything else follows. That's what started this onslaught of inflation, that the greatest we've ever had in our country. We had the greatest inflation over the list, and it actually, we had almost no inflation. And that carried on for 2 years into there. I used to say his, now I say there. But nobody even really knows who our president is, if you want to know. Who's our president? Who is he? Nobody, we're not sure who the president is. Yeah. It sounds good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But the inflation, it carried on for almost 2 years into that. We had a solid no inflation. It was solid. And then it exploded. Because what they did was the energy, and also what they did, just almost as importantly, was they spent like nobody's ever spent. They went crazy. And the Green New Scam, and they were spending on things that didn't help the country. And it also drove. So between the energy and the spending, the inflation went up, and food prices came with it, and rent came with it. Everything came with it. And we had, I think, the worst inflation we've ever had. And we're going to bring it down. So we're going to bring it down with energy and interest rates. The interest rates are going to come down. But first, we're going to and here's a statement that I make to you tonight. We are going to have energy. We have more liquid gold, I call it. You've heard that said, liquid gold. That's oil and gas. We have more oil and gas, liquid gold than any country in the world, including Saudi Arabia and Russia.
I have a question because, and I'm truly ignorant about this. This is one of the rare things that I can't speak to. And so I then propose a question over to the chat because my chat is, they're my co-hosts for the show. A lot of y'all may not know that, but chat lives matters. I invite people in our chat, especially our moderators. Let me give a round of applause for my moderators. First of all, our moderators are so awesome because very rarely do you even see the moderators time anybody out. You know what I'm saying? Moderators keep a tight control over the chat as far as monitoring it and making sure that people are not spamming the chat and that they're not getting overly disrespectful. But everybody is pretty cool. And we invite people to have differences of opinions. You know what I'm saying? So it's educational, it's entertaining, and we invite people. So if you have a difference of opinion or you got a thought or you got a mindset that is different from ours or different from mine or different, rock out, give me your insight. I love the people that give differences of opinions. We embrace them, we love them, we argue back and forth. Sometimes I hold them accountable, but they can rock out. But here's my question to the chat today, okay? And I got the greatest mods ever and I got the greatest chat ever. So shout out to everybody that participate with the show. Here's my question to the chat. And y'all let me know inside of the comments. Why don't we drill? Because I've always understood, shout out to my moderators, I've always understood that we do have more oil in the United States of America and under our feet than anywhere else in the world. I've been taught that. I believe that. Obviously, it's true. So my question then becomes, why don't we leverage what we have under our feet in order to solve for the national debt, in order to lower energy prices, in order to make sure that Americans are taken care of, and to give us more opportunities to be able to do the things that we want to do by lowering prices and giving more economic opportunities? Why don't we drill? Can somebody let me know inside of the comments? I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't even know why Democrats are so against drilling and leveraging the oil that we have under our feet to solve for a lot of the problems that we have. Chris James says environmental issues. Okay, cool. So if it's environmental issues, then why do we spend so much money buying it from Venezuela? Why do we spend so much money on foreign oil? I don't know, and that's why I'm asking. You just now found out this your first time, Al? This your first time finding it out too? Interesting. Okay. Because it's coming from somewhere, so we'd rather overspend it on somewhere else than making sure that we leverage it to get the resources out in order to spend it on ourselves.
And we're going to bring it down. We're going to bring your energy bills down, and also business where they can employ people. But we're going to bring the energy down by 50% in the first 50% in the first 12 months. And when we do that, everything else is going to follow. Everything follows the energy. And because we have so much, you know, they don't drill, they go to Venezuela. We buy oil from Venezuela. What's that all about? And we have more than anybody else in the world. Think of it. Saudi Arabia doesn't have as much. Russia doesn't have as much. And we're going to other countries. We're going to drill and we're going to take it out. Your energy bills will be 50% lower 1 year from January 20th. 1 year from January 20th, okay? And that's going to have a huge impact, okay?
I'm an operational technology engineer. It's cheaper to buy and broker oil from other countries. We actually buy cheaper, but major companies tax it. Interesting. Okay, Chris. I appreciate that insight.
Thank you. Say hello to your son. Thank you. Very good. Good job. Thank you.
Well, I think that everybody is ready to get those prices at the pump down. And one thing I found out is 84% of all the cars that these good people made, and 84% of the cars sold in 2023 were gas-powered cars. And we need to get that price down.
Yeah, so it's a good point. Look, they have an electric mandate. Every car is going to be electric, they say. I will terminate that now. And you have to understand, Elon endorsed me with the strongest endorsement, and we love him, and he's great. And by the way, the Tesla is amazing, but not everybody should have an electric car. It might be 7 or 8% of the market. And then you also want hybrids, and you want to have pure gasoline-driven powered cars. We're going to have everything. The new one is hydrogen. There's one problem. Do you know what the problem is? They blow up. You'll be to the other side of the arena, and you won't feel too good. So until they fix that problem, I'm going to pass personally. If you'd like one, you can buy one, but I'm going to pass. But you've got to have alternatives and choices. That's what the country's all about. And we're not going to have, I will end the electric mandate on day one of the administration.
I think a lot of people would be happy with that. I'd love to get y'all opinion on it in particular. So that is Trump's message to the American workers, that you will have jobs as a result of more manufacturing, that we have an energy crisis that can be solved for, and that inflation can come down and the national debt can come down. All right.